Welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I am Steve Harper, and with me, as always, is my amazing co-host, Donna Carlin. Donna, how are you doing today?
I'm great. And yourself?
I am fantastic. What are we talking about today? I always love these conversations. I'm just like super excited to dive in. So what are we talking about?
So, a couple weeks ago, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I can't remember, we talked about one of my favorite Harry Potter people, Albus Dumbledore. And I have another quote that I wanted to use to start off our conversation because I think it's cool. It's not our abilities that show what we truly are, it's our choices.
Ooh, I
Isn't
love
that a
that.
good one?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, where does that quote hit for you?
You know, we could have incredible abilities. If we make choices to minimize them, then we're not honoring them. If we make choices to please other people and not stand true, to our own values and stances, again, we're not honoring them. If we try to be like somebody else because it's the in kind of person to be,
Yeah.
then again, we're not really showing people what we're made of. And why it came to mind, I was talking to a client recently who was in a social setting with previous employees because he's moved on to a different role. And he never really had that sense of connection. They were a troublesome sort, I'll tell you. And so he was talking about how he felt, being in that setting and, how he could hold himself so nothing would be controversial and he wouldn't feel the angst that he felt when it was a real it was a group of people that didn't play well with each other. So and I was really amazed because you will never meet somebody who has so much integrity, whose core, like to the core of him, and he's a leader, he's a senior
Mm-hmm.
leader, is all about people and how do I support them and how I mentor them. And, even when they misbehave, how do I turn them around? Truthfully, he is absolutely an incredible human being. And my response to him was just be yourself.
Yeah.
Be yourself to the point where they're going to take pause and say to themselves, why the hell would I want to work for anybody else? Or, boy, do I ever want to work with somebody like him because I've never seen a leader with that much, integrity and compassion and, just a total human based leader. So, he just looked at me and thanked me. And I said, be you. Just be you. That's all
Yeah.
that's needed. Be you. And that will attract more people than anything else.
Absolutely. No, I love that advice. I often wonder why we as human beings spend so much time worrying about what everybody else thinks and what those environments that we find ourselves in as to how well we'll be accepted. Obviously, one of the areas of my passion is really understanding the relationship dynamics of individuals
Right.
and that piece of how do we connect more authentically, how do we feel confident in showing up as our true authentic selves in the world, and how many people are so fearful of doing that because they are just afraid that they're not enough, or they're not going to be able to be worthy of that seat at the table. And it's how many careers have been just squandered or lost because you didn't step up. And you think about it, and it's oftentimes when it comes down to, well, I don't have the experience, or I don't have the
Mm.
knowledge that I perceive these other folks have. I had a conversation with a coaching client recently that was just going through some similar challenges on a program that they've been put on, a committee for a program that they've been put on. And they're like, well, just everybody is just so put together and just so knowledgeable and experienced. And I said, well, do you really know that? Or are you making an assumption? Right. And she
I
said, well,
like that.
I mean, I just know the pedigree. I've seen their LinkedIn's. I know, kind of the people that they are. Yeah, but you didn't attend class with them. You don't know how well they paid attention. You don't understand the experience that they've been through, just like they don't understand yours. And you have to set that story aside, those preconceived notions aside, and just show up and be you and not worry about who they are and what they've done and the experience that they bring to the table, that's great. If it works out and it benefits the organization and the project that you're working towards, the committee, great. If it doesn't, it really doesn't have to be something you consume any time worrying about, because you're going to show up and do your part. You're going to work towards the ultimate goal, and your abilities, like you said, right? Those are things that and you know how to apply, but you choose how you are going to show them. And if you're doing it through the lens of what everybody else thinks or what everybody else might take away, or just this whole area of judgment, you're probably not going to show up as the most authentic version of yourself. And you're probably going to hold yourself off the playing field, and you're not going to get out into the real game. And so I just find this really interesting, because it's not a one-time incident. I see it almost in everybody I work with, that they really struggle to understand where their place in the world is, because they're looking at it through everybody else's perspective instead of their own.
That's right. And I'm always fascinated to find out why. Why in the world would you want to be someone else when you could be you, more of you, expand your offerings to the world, because everyone is needed.
Yeah.
That person that you want to emulate, hopefully they didn't wake up in the morning saying, I want to be somebody else. You appreciate them for what they bring to the table, what they bring to the world, and you're trying to copy some of their impactful behavior or choices or whatever else. The choices that you make are going to be aligned with who you are, what your offerings could be, and the impact that you could have.
Yeah.
Choose them wisely. Obviously, I look at servant leadership. How are you serving the greater good? How are you leaving people better than, when they, before they met you,
yeah,
before they worked with you, that kind of thing. And not everybody's going to be open to listening and learning and reflecting on what you have to say. That's fine. It doesn't, mean that you should stop doing what you're doing or being who you are, to bring more to the world and to bring,
because that's their choice, not yours. Shouldn't impact yours. Yeah,
exactly right. I do a New Year's letter. Sometimes it's a Christmas letter. It all depends on the time of year that I have the time to actually sit down and do it. And what was funny was, who I heard back from and who I didn't hear back from. And I started thinking for a moment, are the people that I don't hear anything back, not even, Happy New Year in return, consistently not responding to what what my outreach is. And if so, I probably am going to reconsider. If they miss a year or whatever, it's one thing. If they consistently miss a year and they're on my list, what I'm going to do is actually ask myself, who could I share it with that it'll benefit in a way that they will be grateful for having the questions asked of them, because that's what they are. It's like, let's look at what the last year has brought and how we could look at things differently in the year to come. The choices we make according to Dumbeldore, and how do those choices serve us and those around us. And, that is my guiding light, so to speak, as to who I choose to spend my time with, because time is it. Mm-hmm. That's all we have available to us to make a difference, to live our lives.
That's right.
And so if we don't take time for us, then, we can't bank it for later. You can't save time in a bottle. Remember that song?
Yeah.
And so protect your own time as much as that which you give to other people. Again, the choices you make. I can't, say to my clients, you're going to burn yourself out, Mr. Steve Harper, don't work on weekends and your birthdays and everything else. I could say that 500 times and you're still not going to listen to me. Or I could, however, if I don't do it myself, you're going to turn around, point your finger at me and say, that's a pot calling the kettle black. So there you go. I need to model what my message is.
Yeah.
Because my choices need to be my choices, not my choices for you.
That's right. Yeah. No, that's true. So true. Well, let me ask you a question. For someone that's out there that right now is struggling to make the right choices? How would you suggest that they take what they're hearing in this episode and really begin to apply it, to maybe look at things from a different framework and ask themselves if they're failing to really show up as that true authentic version of themselves and really leverage those abilities, what they do to reverse that transaction, that approach.
Some people try to rationalize the choices that they make. A lot of people try to rationalize the choices that they make. And I go, you could be right. In other words, try to convince me that everything that you've done is in your best interest and that of the people around you. Or you could do the right thing for you and for everyone else. And the right thing is authenticity.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So, look at your choices. And if you struggle how to make choices, ask yourself, what do you really know is right for you and for those around you? And that's not to be cruel. That's not to be cutting. It's, if you do separate yourself from certain relationships because they seem to be toxic for you, do it because it's right for you and probably them too. Because unless they thrive on conflict, in which case, why would you want to be part of that relationship anyway? It'll serve you both. It's honoring yourself. So how do you make the best choices? How are you going to honor yourself and those around you?
Yeah.
Is it something that you have chosen or you've been voluntold to do?
Yeah.
These are the questions to ask yourself. Am I being voluntold? Do I believe that this is something that I'm expected to do or to say? And is that in alignment with who I am? And what if I was just me?
Yeah.
How much more would I be accepted, listened to, honored, respected if I was true to myself? Because trust me, if you try to be the end all and be all to every single person in your life, which means you're going to alter your choices and what you do depending on who it's for, what's going to happen is you're going to get yourself into trouble because somebody's going to witness it and say, well, that's not what you said to me.
Right. Yeah.
And the trust factor is going to go way down.
Yeah.
So what I suggest is be you, be true to you, honor your boundaries and your values, be consistent. That is key because without consistency, trust doesn't exist.
Yep, that's an excellent point, and the right choice to make for sure to go forward, and everybody will recognize those abilities when you start showcasing them, and you're setting those, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, the boundaries that you have, the approach that you take, the decisions you make, and how authentic you show up in key moments. You definitely you will garner some positive attention and certainly. In a lot of ways, transform a lot of how the world responds to you and reacts to you. So I think that's great. Well, another really powerful topic. I love these. It's a great quote. That was a great inspiration for this episode. So Donna, how can our audience, our members that see us on Facebook and YouTube or listen to this on any of the various podcast platforms that the show is on, how can they get involved in this conversation? How can they share what their feedback or thoughts are on this episode or any other episodes that they may have heard or had an opportunity to see?
Join our Facebook group, Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. Let us know what you think, what this brought forward to you, some examples. Tell us what you'd like us to discuss, or if you want us to go further in some of our conversations. They're all posted there. And if you subscribe, you'll be notified when we post a new episode. We would really love to hear from you. And some are emailing us or messaging us directly because they want to share something a little bit more personal. You could get us through our messenger, like on Facebook as well. It's a great way for us to respond to you. And we really thank you for being our loyal listeners because we do have a great following and it's very appreciated.
Absolutely. We love this. We love the opportunity to have these conversations, start these conversations with you that hopefully carry out and ripple out into the world for you, for these different conversations, these questions that we ask, these quotes that we share. They're an opportunity for you to engage not only people that, that you work with day in and day out, but also your family members and your friends, and take conversations to a whole new level. And so we love hearing some of the stories about how some of these topics are really resonating and helping accomplish that. So we'll be back again very soon with another episode of Inquiring Minds. But until then, Donna, take care.
You too.